Hi everyone. I'm here today to make a video for parents that if you would like to help your kids become even stronger readers, that these are some strategies that you can try that will help your kids learn to decode words that are kind of tricky. Just as a caveat, kids are welcome to watch this video, but it's not going to be super interesting for kids. It's really meant more for parents. And I know a lot of parents are really good at showing their kids how to sound words out, but I wanted to show you some other strategies you can try besides sounding out that work great for helping your kids learn how to read. And I wish I could say at the end of this video that you will know everything that there is to know about teaching your kids how to read, but I don't even know everything there is to know about teaching reading. So I'm just going to try my best to give you a few tips that hopefully will help when you're working with your kids. So in your child's book bag, you have a green card that looks like this. Mine happens to be gold just because I ran out of green paper to print it on, but yours in your child's book bag is green. And it has lots of different strategies that you can work on with your kids. And the ones toward the top tend to be the easier ones, and the ones toward the bottom are for like some higher level thinking. Oh, and one last thing, if you are watching this video and as you're watching it you start to feel stressed out, just stop. It's fine. You don't have to watch this video if it's making you feel like overwhelmed. And if you want to come back to it in a week or a month or whenever, it's fine. So it's meant to be helpful, not stressful. Okay, so to start out with, probably the simplest strategy that a lot of kids maybe don't even realize that they're using is to look at the picture. So you can see right here, it's just the reminder for your child is that it's just a little girl holding a magnifying glass and it says, look at the pictures. So an example of using that strategy would be this one. So say for example, your child is reading in a story and they get to the word tree. That would be kind of a tricky one to sound out because it's got a vowel team in it, it's got a consonant blend, but if they check the picture, it suddenly becomes a very easy word to figure out. So as they're reading, they read look at the, and if they get stuck, you just tap the picture to cue them that it says tree. Look at the tree. The next strategy on the card is to get your mouth ready, and by that I mean to say the first sound or the first maybe two sounds if it's got two consonants at the beginning to help you figure out the word. And that's a good strategy to use, especially if the picture is a little bit confusing, that they can double check that first letter in the word to help them figure it out. So like an example of that would be the word puppy. So they might be thinking, oh, it says dog, but if they check the first letter and they get their mouth ready to say that first sound, p, 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 I see a p, p, then that can cue them to say puppy instead of dog. And I call this one, sometimes I refer to this as cross-checking because they're checking two things. They're checking the picture and they're matching it with the first letter so that instead of just checking the picture, they're adding that first letter and making sure that the idea that they say matches. I see a puppy. The next strategy on the card is to get a running start. And what that means is that your child is going to go back to the beginning of the sentence. Say if they're stuck on a word toward the end of a sentence, go back to the beginning, smoothly read the first words in the sentence, and then think about what word would come next that would make sense in that sentence. So an example of that might be the word home. Again, kind of a tricky one to sound out. So instead of cueing them to sound out, they could get a running start. So if they read, I want to go, and then they stop and they get stuck on this word, have them go back, get a running start, and think about what word would make sense. I want to go home. That word would complete the sentence and complete the idea. You can also combine this with getting your mouth ready by saying that first sound to give yourself a hint about what the word could be. I want to go home, and that can help them figure it out. The next strategy on the card is the classic one, sounding out. But here I have a picture of a slide to say that you're going to slide through the sounds in the word, say each sound, and figure it out. But as a caveat, this strategy really only works for shorter words that are spelled phonetically. So if there's any tricky parts in there, any vowel teams, that can really trip kids up. So here's a couple examples, kind of by level, that you might see that your kids could sound out. So like at levels B or C, you might see like a CVC word, a consonant vowel consonant word like win. And that would be a really simple one to just say the sounds and put them together. W, I, n, win. And they can sound that one out. At maybe a C or a D, you might start seeing words that have a consonant blend in it, like flap, flap, flap. Or maybe at levels D or E, you might start seeing words that have consonant blends and digraphs in the word. Br, sh, and they could sound that one out. The next strategy on the card is to think of a rhyming word that you know, and this would be kind of a higher level strategy, maybe at like if you're reading at a level D or E and you know quite a few sight words and you're pretty good at rhyming, this would be a great strategy for you. So an example of that might be, can is one of our sight words, and the kids could easily sound out that word, but if they're stuck on, say, like a word like fan, if they know how to read can, they can also read fan because all they have to do is change the first letter in can to an F instead of a C, and it turns can into fan. So if you can read can, you can read fan too. Or another example of that might be, I know how to read look. So if I change the first letter in look to a B, look becomes book. And that can help them figure out a word by breaking it into chunks. Another strategy on here is looking for chunks in a word and taking the word piece by piece. So sometimes you'll see, say, a sight word hiding in there, or you can take off the ending of a word and that can and just figure out the beginning, and that can help you figure out the word. So an example of that might be the word at is hiding in flat. So if you know the word at, you can figure out flat because you just add that beginning sound. Into is two sight words put together. So even if the word is hard as a whole, you can read in and you can read to. I like to use my fingers sometimes to cover up part of the word, and that can help you see just the word part you want to figure out. Another example, like the one on the card, is that the word all is hiding in the word ball, and if you can read all, you can read ball. And a final example would be looking. Take off that ing, or it might have an ed ending instead. Take off the ing or ed, figure out the first part of the word, and then add the ing or the d or ed on the end. Looking or looked. This strategy is really just thinking about what would make sense. This sometimes is a strategy you have to fall back on. If none of the other strategies are working for you, just think about what would make sense in the sentence. What word could you put in the sentence that would complete it? Or sometimes if your child is reading a sentence incorrectly, what I like to do is repeat back to them what they said. So allow them to finish their thought, finish their sentence, and then say, wait a second, you just said, and repeat back to them what they said so they can hear, oh, that doesn't make sense. And it's really important that kids are listening to themselves read, and if they read something and it has a nonsense word in it, or it doesn't make sense, that they go back and fix it so that it does make sense. If they made an error, but it still makes sense in the sentence, that's not such a big deal. But if it doesn't make sense, they should definitely go back. So an example of that might be your child might read, I went a cat. And you can say, stop, hold on, you just said, I went a cat. Does that make sense? And then if they realize, oh, no, that doesn't make sense, have them look at the picture again. Looks like there's a girl thinking about a cat. What do you think that word might be? I want a cat. Now it makes sense. And the final strategy on the card, this is probably the trickiest strategy of all, is trying a different vowel sound. So if your child is saying a short vowel in the word, and that's not making the word make sense, it makes a nonsense word or a word that doesn't make sense in the sentence, or if they're saying a long vowel and the same thing happens, have them try the other one. Try the long vowel or try the short vowel sound instead. So by long vowel, I mean where the vowel says its name, and by short, I mean where it makes it sound. So an example of that might be, if they're trying to sound out this word, they might say b, I, k, and then you'll say bick. I don't know what that is. That's not a real word. That doesn't make sense. Try a different vowel sound. Make the I say its own name. B, I, k. Oh, bike. That makes sense. That's a real word. Well, thank you guys so much for listening in. And I just wanted to say everybody that I've listened to read so far this week has done an outstanding job. So thank you guys so much for all your work with kids. If you have any questions at all, please let me know. If you're feeling overwhelmed, don't hesitate to reach out. I would love to work with you. And thank you so much. And again, if you have any questions, just let me know. Thanks. Bye.